At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
We're glad you're listening to the Help My Unbelief podcast, the #1 Christian podcast made for the unbeliever.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey.
Hello.
New digs, man. This is impressive.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited. I'm excited about this. We are officially in our new studio. I don't want to talk about this too long because we want to go into talking about the Lord like we do normally here. But what this is our new studio. You're seeing new camera equipment. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here that you can't see.
We want to say thank you.
Yeah, to everyone who donated. Thank you so much. Angela, you're going to have to get used to that, huh? I know. Just 1, 2, 3. But anyway, so the biggest deal is we're going to be going live sometimes. We haven't hammered out exactly when we're going to start doing that. But here's what the setup is going to be, essentially. We're going to have one pre-recorded Help My Unbelief show, which is traditional, old school Help My Unbelief with Pastor Gary a month, which is going to be recorded on a Tuesday. So you guys, I mean, we haven't decided. I want to pick a consistent day where every show goes out, but I'm going to have to figure out when they're all being recorded to figure out what that day is. So bear with me on the day there. I'm thinking I'm going to put them out Thursdays or Friday, which gives me a couple days to get most episodes out, editing-wise, because I spent 12 hours on the last episode editing it.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent 12 hours because I am, if you ever go watch it, I edited his baptism videos into it. I put lower thirds for all of our names, and I edited in his Bible verses when he was talking about it. I put a little graphic in when we switched to the rounds.
Yeah, great.
And so...
yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a bunch of kids playing on a merry-go-round, and we're entering into the rounds, and there they were.
Sweet.
What now?
He's like, what? What? No, I didn't.
6 hours what? It'll record for 6 hours. Oh. What, do I need to turn that up? Did you guys hear that? Did you hear Coco talk?
I didn't.
Okay. And now, I have another secret I'll tell you, a production secret. I have an earplug in my ear to where Coco can yell at me while we're doing the show. Talk to me again so I can hear it, Coco. Okay, you're probably going to have to talk a little louder because I'm deaf. I should put that in my left ear.
Yeah, because, I mean, I could hear
That's
him.
better.
I could hear him
Yeah. Okay.
through the headphone, and you can't hear
Really?
him on your thing.
I am going deaf in my right ear, for sure, for real. But
Don't
anyway.
speak it into existence.
Okay, so that's the biggest deal is I don't know what day, but we're going to get one traditional show with Pastor Gary pre-recorded once a month, and then we're probably going to do one other pre-recorded show a month that's not going to have Pastor Gary. I have heard rumors that we're possibly getting Mark back, and Mark's not going to be a part of production in that, but he's going to be where Pastor Gary's sitting.
Wonderful.
In
Great.
that. I just always, and I know for you, those of you that have listened, I've always valued Mark as a co-host on the show. He's done really good. He's a lot of fun. And then he also adds an element to the show that me or you don't. You know, that's why I feel like God put us all together. We all add a little bit of value.
Everybody's different.
Yeah. And so hopefully Mark, if the Lord wills it, Mark will be in Pastor Gary's spot when he's not here. And he's even shown interest in possibly showing up for the lives as well. So that'll be good. So you're going to get 2 live streams a month, which are most likely going to be Fridays or Saturday nights, whichever we can get the team wrangled up, because it takes a lot of us to run this. It's not just me or Larry or Pastor Gary. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that have worked really hard on that. I can't thank you guys enough. I'm so grateful that we're all here. I'm grateful to God that he provided this for us, because not everybody gets the setup that's seen here today. So I'm super happy. I'm super excited with the future of the show. Thank you all for sticking with us. And I'm just so happy. I'm so happy and excited. Are you guys excited?
Excited. Good.
Can't you tell?
No, not really.
This is the excited Larry.
Yeah.
Well, now I can't be excited like I am out there.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'm just excited about.
Quiet down.
I want to talk about a topic real quick, that one that I've been thinking about, because one could get kind of cynical, right, about the times that we're living in, because what we're going into, one could draw a conclusion that we are living in the last days. As a Christian believer, one could start to believe that, So did probably every generation of Christians that survived since then, so we could be wrong, right? We don't know. But we're growing closer to the signs that it's starting to look that way. And you can go, oh, man, that's scary, that stinks and stuff like that we might, be alive for that. But what I've been thinking about lately is I think we're going to get one last, maybe even historic revival, and I think we're going to get to be a part of it. Like the biggest revival, because when the Bible talks about God pouring out his Spirit in the last days, that sounds like a revival to me.
It does.
And that makes me so excited that, okay, it could be scary to be a part of the last days, could be, right? But it also, you're not scared. Yeah, you're excited for Jesus to come back.
Definitely. But there's definitely two sides. There's what we would call the bad prophecy, and that is wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, earthquakes, pestilences, the hearts of many waxing cold. All that's pretty negative. On the other side, we've got the gospel being preached worldwide, which is very positive. We've got the power of God, the Holy Spirit being poured out. We have also those who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. So it's no religion, no belonging to a church saves you. It's those who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. So, and we get to pick which one we focus on. Do you want to focus on the negative, or do you want to focus on what I would call the positive? God pouring out of his Spirit, just last days revival, just like you're saying.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm excited about that.
Very excited.
So does it make me cynical when people start talking about end times, and I go, why are you worried? It's mentioned in the Bible. Is that cynical?
No, from your perspective.
Yeah, from my perspective.
I don't think from your perspective.
Why are you worrying about that? Of course, that's what's happening. I mean,
sure.
It's mentioned in the Bible.
And you're just having an affirmation of faith. It's going to happen. Yeah. The Bible says it. That's not up for debate. Jesus promised he's coming back. Either he's a liar or he's coming back, and I think he's true.
The Bible doesn't say exactly how it's going to get to those certain points. So when you actually are able to discern what's happening at that particular time, I'm sorry, I turned my head. Then you start seeing things such as the way that they're getting rid of certain foods and stuff like that, and the push for AI, and some of the stuff that I've seen on the computer here lately has been kind of explaining how some of that's going to come into play, where they're going to be able to fool the overall population, and stuff like this 90-foot statue that they just put in Houston.
What's that?
The monkey god. And I sent you a.
Oh, yeah, I seen that. I didn't know that was in Houston.
Yeah, that's actually a Hindu god.
Yeah.
Little g god.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just put that in there.
You don't think you've ever even when you
what else was made as a 90-foot statue? Is
that the mullet?
You thinking about Nebuchadnezzar?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. What what was I going to say? Oh, do you think you ever had a time that you were like afraid? Because you've always been you've always had a base root of belief. Do you think there was ever a time that you were worried about the second coming or the end of days or anything like that? Or have you always been that, like, kind of had that?
Well, I'm going to get a lot of feedback on this. I was saved. I'm going.
Don't worry, I'll be the only one that sees it.
I was saved
that's for sure.
I was saved as a child. I asked God into my heart and everything, but then I chose the world, and I was aware enough from my upbringing that if I had died in the head-on collision that I was in, if I had died the night that the bike that I drugged the wall for 35 feet, and I was drunk as all get out. If I had died in those certain circumstances, I would have stood before the Lord as a sinner, and I would not have been forgiven because I was not asking for forgiveness. And if anybody said, "Hey, where are you going?" I'm like, hell, if I don't change my ways. Yeah. That was one of my answers because I knew that I was without.
See, I appreciate that honesty. I wish everyone was like that honest.
Yeah.
Knowing the truth of the reality of where you stand. That's critical.
Yeah, that's why when I say this a lot, and I sound redundant, as I hope I use that word correctly, but I sound redundant, but whenever I actually started reading the Bible for myself, I was like, oh man, like, I need to start taking this Christian thing a little more seriously. I remember I was like 23 years old, and I had been raised up in a different way. Everybody knows I was Baptist, and I start reading the Bible for myself, and I was just like, man, I got to take this serious. This is a serious deal. Like, I can't just live however I want to and just expect to go up there and be like, hey, I know I muddied all over you and stuff, but, and just never even think about Jesus throughout your day. Just go on, call yourself a Christian, call yourself a believer, walk throughout your day without even Jesus on your mind at all, and then expect to walk in the kingdom of God whenever you get done.
And I know Gary knows this. I mean, he's the scholar of us. I'm just now getting to where I'm reading and understanding a lot of the scripture. And I never would have thought, and since I do devotionals, I get quite a bit of information. But I never would have considered in my younger years that, the coarse jokes or the lewd behavior or any of that was outside of the walk with the Lord. I mean, I knew it, but I didn't really realize that it was actually written about in the Bible, that you need to control yourself on those things. And so when I find myself tempted to fall back in that, it's immediately, and I never understood what Paul meant by capture your thoughts and bring them under the submission of Christ. But now I not only know, I practice, continually practice. It's a battle every day for almost every thought and every word. I don't want, when you wake up in the morning and you say, here I am, Lord, use me, and you say, help me glorify you throughout the day, part of that glorification of God is to be focused on him so much that the world has no call on you. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, man. I'm not. I still turn my head occasionally when a motorcycle goes by. Okay, when I hear the pipes, I kind of glance, I kind of look. But, God's taken that away because I treated it as a God in front of him. I don't have any kind of cravings for those things that I did. I do got to get a grasp on this gluttony thing. Just because I like food, is that gluttony? I got to worry.
It is.
That would be the one that slides past me. That'd be the one that really gets me because,
Can I say this,
I don't focus on that.
Like, I know, like, in my personal opinion, I think we're all, like, what Jesus, this is just an opinion, but I believe what Jesus meant, remove the log from your eye before you try to remove a twig from someone else's. I believe that what he meant is that you're probably going to spend the rest of your life getting your own log out of your eye. You're never going to get it out, so don't even worry about other people. And what I want to say by that is I've realized that recently is I'm really, One part of the Bible that I could read and go, I'm definitely doing that, is I hunger and thirst for righteousness. I know I do. It says that bless those that are hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. That's one thing I can look at it and go, I'm pretty hard on myself, but I can look at that and go, I'm not saying I'm righteous, but I do every day. I wake up and I seek it, you know.
But see, I don't want to get filled, because then I'll no longer seek. I'll no longer have that hunger. I want to constantly be hungry.
Yep.
And to be chasing. But, you know, seeing how God has begun to trust me in certain levels of my understanding has, and the feedback that I get from the men's groups, you know, it has been literally mind-blowing to me, that God can use me for his kingdom.
Yeah.
That I wasn't beyond redemption, no matter what I did or how far down I was, which I was pretty far down. I never was too far out of his hand, and that my father in heaven was still waiting on me to come back to him.
You know what I like to see? What it shows me the character of God is when he commands people like my wife or me or you or you. We're all ministers to the unbeliever community. That's who we've been called to go and minister to. For example, her ex, she got called, Angela, talk about Angela, by the way. She got called to go down and pray for her ex-husband who beat her up, was in a very abusive relationship. This guy wasn't he like in the Aryan Brotherhood or something like that? Or no, but he's a very outspoken atheist, and God called her down to go pray for him and preach the gospel one last time he was on his deathbed as a cancer.
Wow.
And when I think of that, I've been ministering to unbelievers for a little while now. And when I look at God calling us to do stuff like that, and I watch how, like, even me, I've reacted to God and stuff like that, and how unbelievers have, and his goal is still to minister to them. Mm-hmm. It's not like, you know what, I'm going to turn my back to you because you've said this and this and this. His goal is still for them to come to know him. That's his goal. And I see it through what he calls us to do daily. I love seeing that, man. It just shows how it's just like he doesn't care about what you say.
Yeah, and the heart of God is Luke chapter 15, where it's the chapter of lost things, where it's the sheep, the 99, one is lost, and then go seek the one. The 10 coins, one's lost, sweep and find it. And then the prodigal son, you know, you have one, but the prodigal left, and then he came back home. And that's the heart of God concerning the lost, because God's desire and God's heartbeat is for the lost.
Yeah,
to say all the lost come to him. And it's not by way of religion, and it's not by way of some type of ritual. And thank God the Lord receives us just as we are. A lot of times people think, well, as soon as I clean up this habit or get rid of that, and then I'll become a Christian. And that's Jesus, literally, come as you are. And he loves us as we are. Well, we're yet sinners.
You know, we were going to church probably 6 months, maybe a year before Darcia's alcoholism was dealt with by God, you know. But I mean, we were coming, she was still drinking, and that sometimes, you know, people that know us from the church now, so 6-7 years later, they don't remember that part, or they weren't here during that part, and they're like, what? You know, you and Darcia, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, when we came here, we were broken, we were searching, we were accepted, even though there was, all we were was dirty, you know. I mean, we were still biking, we were still going to the bars at that time, you know. And this church actually accepted us as we were. And that's the big thing. When the Bible literally tells you, judge not lest you be judged, for with the same measure that you use, it'll be measured back to you. So with that statement in itself, stop and think about how you look at that person when he walks in and he's not dressed the way you are, or, you know, and that's one of the reasons I'll be honest with you. That's one of the reasons I dress the way I do, is because they accepted me as I was, and I want you to feel comfortable coming dressed like I am.
Very good.
And feel comfortable here.
And see, we've gone full circle back to the log in the eye, because take care of your own problems and don't judge somebody else. You know, take care of the guy in the mirror. And that's full circle, and that's how it ought to be in church, that we accept everyone that walks in the door, no matter how they look, no matter how they dress. And,
or what their thought process is.
well, and lost and, you know, as bad as they can possibly be. We receive them as they are.
Well, when we first started coming, Darcia was not wanting to come to church. She came because I said, I'm going.
Yeah.
I have to change. I can't go on like I was. I was becoming more out of control. And I could sense that. And there were several times in the fit of being out of control to where I literally heard, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
I can honestly say in the 40 years of ministry as a pastor, there's only two people that I ever asked to leave the church. One was a man who was the high priest of the Satanic Church in Wagner County, and he came to just bring destruction. You know, he came to disrupt and yelled and screamed while I was preaching, and literally just had to ask him to, tell him to leave. And another was a demon-possessed woman who did not want delivered. She enjoyed her possession, being possessed, and did not want to be delivered. She kicked the door of the church and broke the plate glass as she left. And but that's the only two that I've ever asked to leave.
Well, thank you for that clip, Pastor Gary. That's a good one, huh? That's actually wild to think, because that's true. Because if someone does not want to be delivered, like I went on a TikTok live one time online, and a bunch of people came and requested me to come. Zach, you got to come here. You need to deliver this girl. And I got on, and sure enough, this girl was clearly possessed by a demon. And she was, like hissing, growling, and stuff like that. And she looked straight at me when I got in there and didn't break eye contact with me. And I tried to speak with her, and she just laughed at me. I asked her if she wanted to be delivered, and she wouldn't respond at all. She would just laugh, and she would not. I said, guys, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to attempt this if she doesn't want to. You pull that thing out without her permission, and she doesn't put back in what needs to go in when you get that thing out, going to cause her more harm down the road than what you would if you just left that thing in there. And when she's ready to get it out, then you go see her, at that point.
Very good.
But you know what I mean?
That's very biblical.
I mean, it was scary. That's kind of the first time. And she looked dead at me too. You weren't around at that time, were you? But I wanted to say this too, for the person, I feel led to say this about the person that is thinking they can't come to God because they have a sin they need to get out of their life. I want to ask you this. What if it's true that Jesus already defeated sin and Satan is just using your sin as a distraction, as a weapon for you not to come to him? That God, I don't want to say God doesn't care about your sin, because God obviously hates it. He despises it, but it's defeated. And he doesn't want that to stop you from coming to him. He wants you to come to him, and then he'll let him take care of that. It's not your battle anymore. Give it to him. And if you knew that it was Satan that was using that tactic against you, would it change your mind? Would it make you think a little differently? That's not God at all saying, hey, man, I need you to sweep up your rug a little bit before you come over here, man, because I don't like being around dirty people. It's who he wants to be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the only way to get clean is through him.
Yeah.
Well, in Jesus, fellowship with sinners.
Yeah.
That was, remember, one of the greatest criticisms of Christ was that he loved to eat and fellowship with sinners.
Yeah. I want to tell you something too. what I was saying about the whole gluttony thing that you said earlier, what I've realized here recently is if you try to get rid of too many things at one time too, like you try to like get rid of too many like bad habits or things at one time, then I don't think that's a good thing either. Like, I mean, I'm saying if God's leading you to quit something, then quit it. But like if you feel, what's it called? Convicted to quit it. But if you're working through that, like if you quit too much at one time, that could be a bad thing too. I'm not saying if someone's like doing heroin or something to not quit that, you know what I mean? But like if you're like trying to quit cussing and coffee and eating cookies at night or something like that, you know, like, you know, are you eating cookies again at night, Larry?
I have limited myself to 4.
You're not answering my question.
No, I don't eat them every night. I went without them for 3 months.
You still off the mints?
Yep.
Are you still off the mints?
Smell my breath, baby.
That's good.
I have to. Off the mints, but occasionally when I know I have to go down and pray, I have to have something in my mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be up on somebody and sneak them out. But have I been consuming them? No.
You don't want to turn someone away from the Lord.
I actually put some in my pocket on Monday. They were wrapped, you know, which I had them in my pocket all day, forgot they were there. Yeah. Went home and went, I was, you know, changing clothes, and I went, oh, I forgot I took those. Yeah. You know.
Did you turn on the air conditioner in here?
But yes, I did. But I had a couple of that were, you know, because I give them to Ben after he finishes speaking too.
Yeah.
And people still are coming to me for mints. So I started, you know, I still got them with me, but
just to hand them
out.
I
don't unwrap them anymore.
You're like the grandpa that hands out Werther's Originals to everybody.
Yeah.
Candyman.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I did notice that I was having a little bit of difficulty that old people do that young people don't have so much. And I needed the oatmeal.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, let's not get into that. Mm-hmm. I know where you're going with that.
Oh.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like the sugar that I cut out and all the stuff that I've cut out in the last 3 months has been a challenge.
Yeah.
But I don't drink coffee anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing at a time, man. Yeah.
No, it wasn't one thing at a time. That's the whole problem. I did about 5 at once.
If you want to have a couple cookies, I mean, come on, man. You know?
Well, my wife said, well, it's okay. You can eat it, you know, this, buddy. And I went, nope. I took half of what she suggested.
Are you saying that Winter Larry's coming back a little early this year? Is that what you're saying?
No, I can't. That's why we got the elliptical because, you know, I plan on.
I thought you got that for
Darcy's
birthday.
But it's sitting there when she's not on it. I'm going to get on it.
Okay.
I mean, because I walk all the time during the summer, but I don't walk during the winter when it's, you know, you can't mow a lawn during the winter.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing a little bit during the day. And I did notice that my knees didn't hurt as bad doing that versus regular walking.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll help keep the legs going.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I used to manage health clubs, the basic principle was to gain weight, you take in more calories than you burn up.
Uh-huh.
To lose weight, you burn up more calories than you take in. And it's just simple and stays that way. Mm. You know, if you want to lose weight, up your activity, down your intake, you know, and the problem is a lot of times when people up their activity, they up their intake also.
Yeah.
Know? And so, and that's like winter. When your activity is not as high, then you got to down your intake, you know.
Well, even the work that I do is a little bit more different in the wintertime. It's not as physically motioned. Mm-hmm. So like I did a bathroom last winter, so that was all on my knees doing tile and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't get a lot of activity and it getting up and down is like ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the floor is still a long way away from me.
Yeah, it is. And it gets further and further.
Okay.
We good?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get to our guest. I think we're at 30.
KB.
KB. I'm so excited
Miss
to bring
KB.
Yeah,
on.
because we this is the first time that we actually get to kind of see them on the monitors.
Yeah, this is actually we're.
Pretty cool.
I think this is episode 75, so we're at kind of a quarter landmark here,
75,
which is cool.
Three-quarter landmark.
Three-quarter landmark on our way to
Three-quarter
100. Which most people, it's hard to podcast. Everybody's kind of seen the grind that it takes to get this thing going. And so this is kind of a milestone, very special. She's going to be our first video guest person.
Yay!
So
Yay, KB.
So whenever you see clips of the show and stuff like that, you will not see just me sitting there going like this anymore.
Or like this.
Yeah. Or chewing on gum or something like that. But you're going to actually see her live on the TV, and we're excited about it. We have 2 TVs here to where we can actually see it too. So we're excited to bring her on. I actually, I think KB is a witch of some sort, but I don't want to say which one she is. I'll just let her say it. So, okay, let's get her on. KB.
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, whoa. I was not zooming.
Yep,
Sorry,
you're in.
Sorry.
So is Rover.
Wow.
Ozzy man.
He got
Be
excited.
able to do that. Sorry. They were supposed to be babysat tonight, but my friend ended up having an appointment, and I was like, don't worry about it. They're behaving. But then obviously as soon as we turn on the camera, Ozzy starts wilding out over here. So
This is
mind him.
crazy. You got her framed up and everything, didn't you, Coco?
Ozzy,
Ozzy.
come here. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Let's look at Ozzy. There's Ozzy sitting in the chair.
Say something, what?
All right.
Oh, was I supposed to keep the show
Let's
going
see.
there?
Let's see. Oh, there's Ozzy. Oh,
So
Ozzy!
Ozzy's a French
my
bulldog.
guest.
Ozzy hears us, right?
That's a
No,
French.
he can't hear you for these. He heard somebody in the hallway.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's being Mr. Guard Dog.
KB, I'm going to break the news to you about something, okay?
Yeah.
Ozzy told me earlier that he's a Christian.
Oh,
I don't know about that because he has a thing for the boys at the dog bar.
Oh, no.
Which
no.
we're okay. Love is love. Just consent. Just
Right.
consent. I'm like,
There you
you're in
go.
a feminist household. You need to know to consent.
Is that kind of tough to switch, Coco? It's kind of rough, yeah. Angela, you just make sure to focus on 1, 2, 3, and then let Coco focus on that. I see you kind of squirreling off over there.
I'm surprised it doesn't do it automatically.
No, there may be a way to do it, but it's just
We're learning.
Yeah, we're learning, so you'll have to bear with us a little bit. But
Well, I haven't used this one, so I wouldn't know how to tell you how to do it anyway. So.
yeah, you don't have to bring your full screen. I can see how hard that'll be, Coco.
Yeah,
So
why don't we just have screen it and leave her
yeah,
there?
can you guys see KB good enough on the big screen over
Yeah,
here?
if they'll just leave her on there.
Okay. Well, we've got to switch it back and forth. We got to switch it back and forth because the
Can't do
feed.
split screen.
No, I don't want to do split screen because we got to get clips and stuff. And she's framed for 916. You don't know what any of this means.
Nope, nothing.
Okay.
Praise the
All
Lord
right.
for my ignorance.
KB, so you are a witch, correct? Are you a pagan witch? Are you a black witch? Are you? We've interviewed death witches. What can you describe to us what you are?
I would identify as an eclectic gray witch. Mainly because I say eclectic because in kind of like studying and going through my journey, I pulled what resonated for me from different practices and stuff. And then I say gray because I do white and black, but not, I look at magic, black and white, as like inherently neutral. And it's the user, the intent of the person doing it that like is the good or bad, I guess you could say. But I do have rules and things like that, like for myself where, obviously free will is a thing for me, consent. And when I do like black magic, it's really only in terms of like vanishing, protection, like that kind of thing. So it's more for me than someone else. I don't ever go and like do things like, I want this, and this to happen to someone. Like, because I also believe in like, what you put out, you can get back threefold and things like that. So I'm very conscious and intentional with it. And it's more of a personal practice versus like I'm going to go be spiteful and do this to this for, kind of a thing.
Right. Have you had anything like as far as like witchcraft when you're practicing it backfire or anything like that? Anything kind of bad happen to you from it?
No. I mean, like I'm sure most have said, like cleansing and protection prior to, but I also have such like just a different view. I feel like sometimes too, where like I'm going in with my intention. I always like work with my ancestors and then like creator source, which I mean, to meet God, whatever you want to label, is all the same pipeline. I go in with respect. I don't mess with other people's cultures. AKA white witches. We got to stop using the white sage and things like that. Don't mess with hoodoo. Be respectful of others' cultures. But I just, even when doing dark, like I do the big thing that got me into I guess what you would call dark magic is like the shadow work. Was a huge thing for me in terms of like healing trauma and even like generational trauma and things like that. So like I look at it as like we create our demons. I sat down with my demon, that kind of a thing, not necessarily an external like source out to get me, if that makes sense.
Okay. What's your relationship with Christians or Christianity in general?
I was born and raised in the deep South Bible Belt into a non-denominational church, but it was like you saw flavors of like Southern Baptist, even a little Pentecostal. I mean, women had to wear head coverings. It was racist. I'll just say it like,
right.
And I did have a pretty bad experience with the church. It didn't drive me away from the Christian God per se right away. It wasn't until like probably when I was in grad school, I took a more like not going to the physical church, because not only my childhood church did I have trauma there, just even when I went to like a different church with my mom when my mom and dad divorced, just the behavior and the things that I saw there, I just felt like I didn't have to have an intermediary for me to have a relationship with God. And so it became more of a like at myself, you know what I mean? Like still doing the Bible, reading the Bible, doing devotionals and things like that. But it wasn't until really all of my unhealed stuff kind of in the pandemic surfaced, and I didn't have a choice but to go and work on it, or it was going to like undo me. Like I was ready to like not be here anymore.
Okay. So you were a Christian up until the pandemic, like up until.
Well, I would say I was not deconstructed. I would say I was not a textbook Christian, but I still was very much indoctrinated and believed in like the male, like, the Abrahamic God. But I just was very much more on like a progressive side, I guess you could say.
Okay. Do you want to talk about, you don't have to, but do you want to talk about some of the things that traumatized you?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. So my dad was like a raging alcoholic. But granted, he didn't start until I was like maybe middle school. But he did, we didn't know until middle school. But he started becoming really verbally abusive to my mom in elementary school. And then into middle school, it started getting more like physically violent. And it wasn't turned at me a lot, but there were times as I got older that I would like jump in and try to like help my mom. Like I've definitely like nailed him in the back of the head with a frying pan one time. Like I just, and there was another time in high school, like after a cheerleading competition, he was wasted out at the competition, all loud, obnoxious, but he had promised, like he'd recorded it and promised to have it on, like so I could watch it after the fact. When I got home, he was like trashed and wouldn't get up and do it. So I went and sat on the couch watching TV, and he just kept screaming about it being too loud and came in there and like grabbed me, and like I smashed something on his head to get him off of me. So like I fought back, and I think that's part of the reason why he ain't coming in that much. But anyway, so my mom, even like one of my mom's friends in the church would try to go and say something. Like my mom went to the preacher's wife, and he'd do stupid stuff like cut the electricity out and things like that, right? Like he was extremely narcissistic. He tapped the phone lines, things like that, just a nightmare.
Wow.
And the preacher's wife was like, oh, I don't believe he'd do that. He'd never do that. The preacher was the same way. I also was like a hardcore dancer my entire life, like competitive. I also did pageants and cheer and stuff like that. So there were a lot of like on Wednesday nights every week, we would have obviously like Wednesday night church, and that's when we'd have like our teen class. My classes ran late at the studio, and it was like I'd have to rush to get there. And like when the preacher's wife was my teacher, it was the way that I was hounded. And like as a child, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to burn in hell because I'm like going to be 10 minutes late to, the class and stuff. And it's like, no one really actually stopped and thought about like, hey, this is a kid that's been at school all day and then dance. And now we're having to like rush her here. She's falling asleep doing her homework at home, kind of a thing. But I loved the activities I was in. And quite frankly, and like my mom only recently kind of like opened up about this with me, that like the reason she never forced me once I got a certain age. I mean, granted, I was put in my first pageant at 11 months old. Don't get me started on that. But like once I was old enough, I could choose, and I enjoyed it. So I stayed in all of it, and it kept us gone almost like every weekend. And we would get a lot of crap for that. But it was a way for us to stay out of the house and to be safe and be away from him.
Yeah.
Because, the one place you go for that is supposed to be somewhere you can go for security and help and stuff. We were gaslit. I ended up developing a pretty severe eating disorder in about 8th grade. And I got sent off to like an intensive inpatient. I've actually had to do that twice. But the first time I was in like 11th grade. And I remember right before I left, like I wasn't technically a member, but like my parents were, I guess it was like age thing or whatever. They were seeking counseling from the pastor and the deacons for their marriage counseling. Which I think when it's on the level that ours was, like that, they were not qualified for that. Like that, it made things worse, honestly. Not knocking like doing some basic counseling, but at that level and with his addiction problem, like it was a nightmare. Anyway, basically because they couldn't reconcile their marriage, they got excommunicated, and so did I. Like I asked my mom, does she remember why? I literally called her and like 21 questioned her before this. And she's like, honestly, I don't remember. But I wasn't allowed to go back unless I apologized. And I was like,
was that your only, who would you say, I've had this question stuck in my head. Who would you say your number one Christian example was growing up?
Not any good ones, that's for sure.
You didn't have any good ones, you don't think? Yeah.
Looking back now, no, I had horrible. I also recently found out, so much came to surface when I started doing my therapy. It was so wild, the timing too. It was almost like the whole God, the universe was just like, we were waiting for you to heal this. Here's, you know what I mean? The whole time I'm being gaslit to think that it's normal or it's my fault. You know what I mean? I've done something wrong. But I recently found out like there was another group of kids from there who were like deacons' kids that they were abused on the regular, and they told me they would call the preacher, and the preacher would be like, well, what did you do? What did you do to deserve it? And that was really the mentality of, it was very much by the rod, that kind of thing, in the church. So to find out that it wasn't just me was kind of big as well.
It was relieving to you because like, a lot of times we fully understand in here that there's some bad churches not doing the right thing out here. And just to be completely transparent for you, I've heard the voice of God tell me a promise one time. he told me that if I continued to be obedient to him, that I would help. Essentially, I would help fill many more church pews in many more churches across the world if I continue to be obedient. And when I think about that, I go, okay, I like the sound of that, but I want to make sure we're getting them in the right churches. You know what I mean? If we put in people in churches, I want to make sure they're in the right churches, because unfortunately, it's all too normal for people to have experiences like you had, and you have very valid and reasons to be traumatized and be turned off from the Christian religion altogether. And I also want to say I'm sorry that your dad went through this. I'm not going to cry in this episode. I'm not going to do it. And especially because Ben's been watching, and he told me, oh, great, Zach got new camera equipment so he can sit there and cry like a little baby because he's a broken man. You know what, Ben? I'm probably going to cry on the first one, but it doesn't matter.
We need men to cry more. Please feel your emotions and process them.
Yeah.
Every woman in the world.
The Ben that hates us. But here's the problem. I posted something the other day where these girls were posted a TikTok video where they said that something that their dad had done. Their dad had like done something bad to both of them. And I posted a comment in there, and it was from my heart. I said, I just wish I could be everyone's dad so I could protect you, so I could protect all the little girls of the world out there. I have 2 daughters, by the way, and I love them. And that's one of the areas of my life where I feel like I'm doing a good job at. I just love my daughters, and I love protecting them. I love making sure they're okay. I love making sure they're heard. I love making sure everything. And they're what made me the man I am today. Here's the problem. When I posted that comment, over 700 teenage girls liked that comment that I put on there.
Wow.
And I went through there and I scrolled through there and I go, oh my goodness, it broke my heart, because there's so many little girls out there that are looking for proper leadership out there, and it's not happening. You know what I mean? And it breaks my heart. And when I hear I look at you as a little girl, KB, and not getting that leadership. And I hate that for you, because you were robbed of a really cool experience of having a good, strong leader in your household. Pastor Gary, what do you have to say about all that?
One thing we have in common between the 3 of us is we're all girl dads.
Yeah.
That's the one thing we do all have in common. And I look at KB and I see a sweet little girl. Of course, I'm an old dude, and I see a sweet little girl, KB, and I love her personality and her bubbliness. But the thing, as a pastor, I'm the old guy here, KB. I'm the guy that's been a pastor for a number of years. But as a pastor, there's one thing that a couple of things. One is, first, I feel like the church failed you.
Amen.
And I'm really sorry for you having a crummy pastor. And I'm sorry that truth wasn't revealed to you. But the thing that I would like to ask you is, do you feel like you've ever maybe judged God based on something that man has done?
I didn't really back then. There probably was a period in where I did. Even in my deconstruction stuff, I'm in such a different place with that. Like, I don't blame. I know that that was the church, and those were the people. And that's why it didn't tear me away from my, relationship with God. It just made me not want to be I didn't feel like I needed to be at the church, because Zach, you made a point where when you said that you wish you could be whatever. I just remember when I was at treatment, and after all the times that we had asked for help, we got there, and and it was a Christian facility that I was sent to the first time. I was there for 60 days. And I remember telling them the story about me being excommunicated, and their jaws hit the floor. And so to hear that from another facility that is Christian based, was kind of like, okay, I'm not crazy. This isn't normal, because we were gaslit so much. So it didn't necessarily turn me away from God. It definitely just turned me away from the church, because I felt like it was full of fake people, and I didn't feel like I could trust them to be you know what I mean? I mean, I'm also neurospicy as I'll get out. I'm extremely ADHD. So I learned differently, and there were just things I would stay in trouble a little bit. Cause I would ask questions just cause I didn't I needed like, if things didn't make sense, like I was going to ask questions. I didn't mean it to be like malicious or whatever, but I just remember several times it being like, you're not supposed to question God. You'll go to hell for questioning God. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get to know homie if I don't ask questions? Like, I don't understand. I need to know. And so there were just certain things as a kid that like didn't really sit right, that I didn't understand. But I was like, I'm not supposed, and just kept trucking along.
Just give it, just to have fun. Okay. Give us one of those questions right now. Just we try not to debate. Let's not debate. Fine. But give us just to see if we could even answer it. Some of these we can't answer. Just to be completely honest, we're not going to lie.
I even made notes, so I have all this stuff in front of me.
Give me your biggest one. By the way, I love that neurospicy thing because I'm also ADHD, and everybody that knows me in the room is probably shaking their head and understand it, and they've all wanted to smack me a couple
Real
times.
Talk.
So.
I'd never watched any full episodes. I'd only seen clips on like TikTok and stuff because obviously I've known people who were on here. But then, of course, my perfectionist OCD self, I'm still working on those shadows, went and binged watched a bunch of episodes because I'm like, okay, I got to prepare for this, know what I'm like walking into. And it was so funny because I noticed how many times you'd be rambling and they'd say something. I was like, Zach is ADHD as you know what.
Oh, yeah. It's bad, dude. It's bad. It's bad. I can't help it. It's been since I was a little kid, but it is what it is. So give us your number one question. Your number one.
If I'm being honest, one of the ones that just always never sat right with me as a kid was homosexuality. I was just like, I don't understand it. Like, love is love. What, you know what I mean? Because even in nature, there's homosexuality and things like that. That was just one. And then, but I always just kind of took it as like, well, I'm not, so I don't have to worry about it. Why I don't understand it, but whatever. I mean, there's plenty more. Like,
yeah, so what you're saying is when you hear Christians really loud saying that homosexuality is a sin, if you do it, you're going to hell, and that you shouldn't do it. And then you probably know some people that you love that are homosexuals, and you go, man, I just don't understand why these are great people. I don't understand why they would go to hell. And because you're a good person and you have a loving heart, it probably turns you away from the ideology because of that. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me that if God is love, love is love, no matter what color, shape, form, gender, what, you know what I mean? Like, if God is love and unconditional love, then what's wrong with love? You know what I mean? Because and as I got a little older, like my dad has a twin, and like one of her daughters ended up coming out as gay and got married, had a kid and everything. And me and my mom got in a little bit of a debate about this one day. And she tried to say like, oh, well, it's the kid. It's unhealthy for the kid. They'll get picked on and stuff like that. And I was like, kids are going to get picked on regardless. It's how you raise the child. But I'm sitting here watching her and her wife raise this child in a more healthy, loving, like balanced household than I ever experienced. And you know what I mean? So it was hard for me to it just didn't make sense to me as that was just one of them. Can
I share with you how I personally, and I think everybody else in this room would handle homosexuality if they came into the church? I'll share that with you just to give you an ideology. We just wouldn't even really, if someone came into our church and they wanted to get closer to God and they said, we're gay, I mean, I would handle it as like, I don't know why you're telling me that. My job would be to do whatever I could do to assist you to get closer to God. Because I got skeletons in my closet that I'm trying to get rid of. That there's things Pastor Gary says this all the time about himself. I'm not going to tell you everything that I deal with because it's none of your business, right? And I don't feel like you need to tell me that if you are attracted to men or women and the same sex. I don't feel like you need to tell me that. But what we can do is we can help you get closer to God. We can get you saved, get the Holy Spirit in you, and then get you on the right track with the relationship with God. And then we're not even going to really worry about, we're not going to worry about what happens after that. Like that's between you and God. And I view, if you heard the pre-talk before you came on, I don't know if you heard it or not.
A little bit, but not all of it.
Okay, but yeah, you probably spaced out ADHD.
A little bit, yeah. I did a little bit.
I know. Okay, but what I was talking about is sin is a tactic. Jesus defeated sin, and Satan uses sin as a tactic to distract people from a relationship with God. And so it's not me saying that I condone homosexuality or anything else like that. I just don't believe it's my place. I just want to help people get closer to God, because I found that it's really cool when you do. That's just a basic explanation.
And thank God it's far above our pay grade.
Larry, you got something?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions and an observation.
All right, Larry.
Larry, pull that mic down a little bit and get it out of...
First off, how old are you?
I'll be 39 in a month.
Well, I'm shocked. I didn't think that.
Oh, pin clicker.
Thank you.
We got a pin clicker, Larry?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought she was a lot younger than that, to be honest with you.
My mom's got good genes.
I think that there is a worldview, and then there is a biblical view of love. You know, I understand where I was when I was younger, and love to me meant sex. Now,
well, you're a dude, and I would think that would be the case.
But that's not true biblically. That is what the worldview is. Biblically, I can love my brother without having any kind of, I can love my sister without having any kind of sexual thought process, because the love comes from a different place. When I was of the world, and I'm saying it this way so you can kind of help understand where I'm going, I had a lot of respect for some people, you know, but if there wasn't, you know, it was mostly just women and love. That's what love meant to me, was women. And men, you know, I didn't have hardly any close friendships that were guys, because I wouldn't hang around them. As a Christian, God has shown me that love was from my head, and the love that I have now is from my heart. And I sacrifice to do things for people sometimes because the love of God is in me, and therefore I can love them.
We tell each other. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, almost every guy that I am involved with in the ministry or friendships or any of that, we always end the call with, "Hey
every
man,
time,
I love you, bro.
Love you every
Pastor
time."
Gary,
yeah.
hey, I love you, brother.
Yep.
You know, I actually hollered that out in church a couple of Wednesday nights ago. Love you, Gary. Yep. You know, I
tell all my Christian brothers now I love you. Well, you know, I've actually been saying it to
but it's a whole different
too.
point of view,
Right?
Because I have a different set of eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With that different set of eyes, I feel that the love is coming from a different place in me. It's not even a thought process anymore. And the only time I told a woman that I loved her and meant it, I mean, honestly, I have a couple of aunts that I truthfully love from the bottom of my heart. My mom, I loved and my grandmother, I loved them. They're no longer here. A couple of my aunts are still here, and I love them, you know, completely. But the only woman that I've ever, I mean, other than my girls, my daughters, the only woman that I've ever literally said I love is my current wife, and I'm saying that because everybody knows my history. But I did not realize how much I could love my wife until I had God in me. Because I liked her a lot, and I lusted after her, and all the right stuff from the world view. But when I entered God into our relationship, and we focused on God, the love became a different type of love.
There you go. Hey, KB, do you have anything that you want to respond to what we just said, or do you want to move on?
I was going to say to Larry, it's a little bit ironic that you say that because I had a similar experience, but the complete opposite way. And this was recently, and it was a lot to swallow. So it wasn't until I deconstructed and found the deconstruction community and friends there. And then I do have a friend or two here that in recent years that I've become friends with. I didn't realize that I did not know what true unconditional love felt like and really was until I felt it from people in that community. I didn't realize how steeped in like extreme indoctrination and judgment and things like that, that even my mom was, and I mean, and still is, until I started doing my therapy and having to and then I deconstructed, and then because of our beliefs, also I'm an adult grown woman, our relationship's not going to be the same that it was my entire life. But for the first time in my life, I was trying to set boundaries to take care of myself. And the more I did that, the more those things showed. And I mean, it ultimately was a good thing because now we're in a much better place. But that hit me like a ton of bricks when I was more accepted, more loved, no matter for who I was. There was no judgment based off what I believed or anything like that. As long as, but if I'm doing something that's crappy, I want to be called out and held accountable kind of a thing. But in terms of just that was the first time I was not judged in my entire life. And
Yeah.
And it came from complete strangers.
Let me ask you a question. Entertain a thought process for me real quick. What if, we'll just kick it off. The starting process is, what if Christianity really is the truth? There is a group of Christians that are actually doing it right. Even Jesus said in the book of Revelation, the way he wrote those letters to the churches shows that most churches aren't going to be doing it right. What if there really is a way to do Christianity the right way and to follow after the truth, and then you just haven't seen it yet? Do you think that would be something you'd be interested in the future?
Honest answer.
No, please. Honesty is what we're looking for.
If we're talking about the Bible and Christianity as we know it in the Western world now, no. Because it wasn't just my experience that wasn't even what turned me away from it, honestly. It was, my undergrad is in social work. I was going to school I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to help girls with eating disorders. That I took a history of religion course while I was in that too, was a little eye-opening. And that sparked a little bit, just learning psychology and certain things, like Carl Jung and the subconscious and stuff like that. And then I also went to grad school. I switched up majors and decided, hey, I'm going to go for marketing now and do something completely different. And I did my master's in science and marketing instead of my MBA. And I get asked a lot of times, I didn't even know that was a thing. How can you get why would you do that? And because for me, it takes an approach on a more scientific standpoint when we're talking about consumer psychology and stuff like that. And there were actually things I learned in that as well, in terms of fear-based marketing strategies versus reward and things like that. And studying how it plays out in politics, and then you see the same behavior in religion and things like that. The version that exists right now, and then even after grad school, ADHD, brain to mouth. When the pandemic hit, it was really the beginning of a huge spiritual journey for me and really figuring it out. My body had also from all of the trap trauma, and then just because I was on a hamster wheel for 10 years doing that whole hustle life, grad school, working, all this stuff. Started my own business at the beginning of the pandemic. But my dad, even though he didn't drink anymore, I don't know, just a lot about the environment, is very heated, and just that narcissist, like abusive narcissistic person just was coming back out, and it just re-triggered so much stuff. Like I have CPTSD. I also have PTSD from a specific incident. I had an ex like hold me at pew pew. Clearly I learned from the one I was raised to date just like him. So,
Right, yeah.
track record. And it just got to a point where between just the wear and tear on my body and then the trapped trauma in my nervous system and just the physical symptoms that were coming from my mental illness and everything, like my PTSD and everything, I had no choice but to like go to a therapist and do some hardcore therapy and I did like EMDR, brain spotting treatment and stuff like that. I even pulled my business back to part-time so that I could commit to this and really like heal myself. I ended up having to like go no contact with my dad and my sister's side of the family. And I had to set boundaries with my mom because you can't heal when you're still being exposed to the thing that trauma, part of what was part of the traumatizing anyway. And during that, I was like, I still in a sense believed in a God, just not the Abrahamic God. And I told myself, I want to sit down for myself and go through it all. But I want to go through everything. I want to go because I want to go from the beginning of civilization as we know it. Every spirituality, every civilization, every religion, all the text, up until where we are today, what all exists, and where Christianity falls in that. And when I took an actual route that way, and I went in like I was genuinely like praying, meditating on it, whatever, to God's source. Like I want to know the truth. And needless to say, it sent me so much further on the opposite side after going through it with the information, the education that I had, and then just sitting down and actually looking at it all and where it fell into place.
KB,
Like,
would you ever, I want you to think about this, just entertain me. Would you ever entertain the thought of like going to a church with, like if like say one of us went with you, or like if you were close to, like we live in Yukon, Oklahoma, by the way, we tell everybody this, and we go to Discovery Church here in Yukon. We've actually had pagan witches, everything. Did I say something wrong?
No, you quit fiddling with the mic.
Oh, I'm doing. Yeah, I need to be
You're
doing.
bugging
That's
me.
ADD.
Get him, Larry.
It's ADD. Everybody gets mad at me because I'm always doing something. But
It's fine. I twirl my hair 24/7, so you're good.
would you entertain it to come to a church one time if you were, or are you just completely sold out? You're never going to church again.
I mean, I'd go, but it wouldn't make a difference.
Well,
If I'm being honest.
not with that attitude, as Coco would say. Yeah.
Are you from Mississippi?
I am just as where it led me just was somewhere that like I mean, from the way I view things is I obviously, because I had my own things going with Christianity, that's what I've been exposed to. I'm in America. That's what, you know what I mean? I'm not down really for organized religion, period. I'm not a fan of any of the Abrahamic religions. Larry, don't get mad at me when I say this, but I'm gonna be real honest, okay? Please don't get mad at me. Because I've watched past episodes. Personally, I feel like the Abrahamic religions, especially Christianity and Islam, are just like a pissing contest between the men of the family, if I'm being honest. I'm not a fan of, it's very patriarchal. Jesus was cool as could be. I think who Jesus really was a cool cat. I think we could hang out, be on the same level. But God of the Old Testament, nah. I consciously couldn't.
Jesus
can't.
was either the Son of God or he was a lunatic. He was crazy.
Well, I think he was the Son of God just as much as you are, as I am, as the next person is, to be frank. Could he have been a little bit manic, or you know what I mean? That was another thing, like looking, like I said, with my like undergrad in psychology and stuff like that. A lot of the incidences in the Bible could just as easily be, psychosis, schizophrenia, ergot from the wheat that they had, things like that as
KB,
well,
Can I ask you a
and
question, KB?
yes,
What I would like to know is, of course, you've used that word deconstruction a few times, and little bit, and I'm going to be very honest, I know very little about deconstruction because honestly, I'm on the other side. And in that deconstruction process, for you personally, what was the hardest thing for you to give up in Christianity to deconstruct from?
the hardest.
It sounds like Old Testament was pretty easy to get rid of, and the Old Testament God had no problem with giving him up. What was the hardest thing for you to give up, to deconstruct from? Because, to me, construction, you're building and, it's effort and puts forth a lot of energy. So to deconstruct, it's going to take effort and time and energy. And so what was one of the things that was the hardest thing for you to deconstruct from?
Honestly, probably the instilled fear of hell that had been in me. Just for even looking. Like my whole, up until that point. But even when I was going through it, there's that little bit in the back of your mind. Because it was like, it was so bad. And when I'm like having things because of the environment that I came up in that still impact me as an adult, and why I had to was a big part of doing that. Like, I didn't even realize how much the religion stuff was a part of my childhood trauma. I didn't even know that I was going to end up fully deconstructing. But let me say, in terms of deconstructing, it doesn't mean just religion. Religion is one thing that I feel like we need to deconstruct from. Things like patriarchy, misogyny, other things. It's not just religion. You can deconstruct from anything, from any kind of system like that, if that makes sense.
KB, let me ask you a question real quick, because I think you were trying to ask the question this way, but if not, I'm interested either way. But for example, when I ask what you hate about leaving Christianity the most, or deconstructing, what I think whenever I would be asked that question, putting myself on a deconstruction side, is for example, I have a daily relationship with God. I talk to him. He even talks back to me sometimes. It's been confirmed through other actions. And I just really enjoy that. I can see that God's hand is in my business, in this ministry, in my life, in how I parent. He literally is the reason that everything happens in my life. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your behind. It's literally, there's evidence of it in my life. And I know everybody defines evidence in their own way. But to me, I have evidence. And I could tell you story after story, but I don't want to waste your time with that. But if I deconstructed and someone asked me that question of what I hated the most about it, or what I missed the most about it, I would say that I would miss that, or what I thought was that. I guess that's what I would ask you. Do you have something that you're like, man, I really miss
I found that when I left. I found and connected with God. I say source, creator, and that is a part of just not necessarily for everyone else, but for myself in a sense as well. A habit of still breaking unconscious indoctrinated things from Christianity. But I have that. My life is consumed with it. Ever since I've switched over into witchcraft and practicing in the way that I do, I still connect with a source. I just don't look at it or define it the way that you do. But I think honestly, and this was kind of the conclusion I felt like I came to after I did all of my digging and stuff. It's even throughout all the different, thousands and thousands of years, there's correlating things across, you know what I mean? Parallels across all of them all. A divine source, doing good unto others, even some type of either physical death or resurrection or like afterlife. And there was a lot of like commonalities across all religion. And then after kind of having an understanding for like just psychology, brain chemistry, and things like that. And then the time of when the things in the Bible were going on and everything, like, I just think that, so John Lennon had a quote. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick, because this is one I wanted to specifically share with y'all. He said, give me just a second, sorry. I got notes on like 5 different screens right now, okay? So ADHD. Where'd I put it?
She is scrolling on that thing.
It's my tablet. Okay. He said, I don't know, when I heard this, I was like, man, okay. I believe in God, but not as one thing, not as an old man in the sky. I believe that what people call God is something in all of us. I believe that what Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and all the rest said was right. I just think that the translations have gone wrong. It was like understanding how our brains work and understanding why we do have a little bit of a natural sense of searching for, you know what I mean? Like some form of spirituality or connection to the divine. I just see it as like that generation or that civilization, that times, you're hearing their rendition of it, of what they could understand and make of it at that time. Because you also see some of the stories carry along, like there's virgin births across multiple, you know what I mean? Even in religions that were, or civilizations and, you know, things before Christianity, like resurrection, things like that, the flood stories and like the Epic of Gilgamesh and things like that. So I feel like it's a little bit of a combination of things that have passed down, but also the best reflection of what was going on at that time and what people believed. Now, I think in terms of the version that we have here is a very whitewashed patriarchal version than what actual Christianity when Jesus lived was. I just think they're two totally different things. And yeah, I mean, even then it's because it's being told from just this group of men's, where are the women's voices? Where are the stories from them? You know, so you can kind of see where along the way, slowly female deities and goddesses, whatever, were removed. You know, that didn't set right with me either. But yeah, like it's just everyone's trying to understand, and it's their version of what I think the divine and source that they understood that it was at that time.
Okay.
I mean,
are you aware of what the rounds are? I don't know why I'm asking you this. I'm going to explain it to you anyway, what the rounds are. It's just a habit I have. Okay. We're going to go into the rounds, and what the rounds are is where we all go around the room and we say something in closing, and then at the end, you're going to get to have the final say. Well, we go on after the phone call, but you watched a couple of shows, so you know that. So does production have anything to say today? Okay. Pastor Gary, can you go first today on the
Sure.
rounds? And then I have a special request on that. Could you maybe give a couple examples and stories of strong women in the Bible? She mentioned something about the Bible in there about women and stuff like that.
well, I know there's strong women, but in terms of like deities and them being a feminine, like goddess, god,
Oh,
divine,
woman god.
you know, that's been slowly removed over time. It's become like, in terms of like the pendulum of balance, we are hard on the patriarchal side to a point where like the women are oppressed. Like,
well, the one that I would use is Leah. And in fact, I just got through writing a book, and we got the proof for it today. And Leah, in the Old Testament, if you remember, do you remember in the Old Testament there was Jacob? And if you remember, Jacob entered into a relationship with Laban, and Laban used his daughter in collateral for a business deal, and her name was Leah. And Leah gave birth to Judah, in which there would be no David, there would be no Solomon, there would be no Jesus Christ without Leah. And so what we find is that everything that we believe in Christianity can go back to being based upon one woman, and her name is Leah. Because through Leah, a marginalized woman who was known as the ugly sister of Rachel, one that was even looked down upon by her dad, had a rough, hard life. But Leah, because of her, we have Judah and all the kings of Israel, and ultimately Jesus Christ. So everything that we believe in Christianity really can go back to a woman, Leah. If you would, in my round statement, I'd like to ask one thing, and that is I heard you, of course, earlier talk about your degree in marketing, and you talked a little bit about, of course, in marketing, learning the two aspects of either going after fear or reward in the marketing approach, using fear to get them to buy, or reward, good, positive to get them to buy, marketing. And I know a lot of Christianity is the same. And what I heard from you, and of course you correct me, is that from Christianity, like I asked you, what was the thing that was hardest for you to give up, to be deconstructed from? And it was the fear that you had of hell itself. Mm-hmm. And so it sounds like, maybe you leaned a little bit more towards the marketing, which would be the fear rather than the reward in Christianity. Because in Christianity, there's so much reward. Having Jesus Christ as your best friend, and having purpose and meaning, fulfillment and joy in life, all because of your relationship with Jesus Christ. And no religion involved in it. It's just a personal relationship with Jesus. And there's so much positive. We have life and life abundantly now, and it gets all topped off with eternal life. And so it's just so much good in Christianity. And yes, there is that little bit, that talked about hell, of course, but the reality is I'd rather focus in marketing of Christianity upon the reward, upon the good, the positive.
Okay, hold on. Actually, I go next. Okay, I go next. Woo. Forgot we switched it. Okay, mine, what I want to say about Christianity is the reason why I'm not kind of loose about it is because Paul talks about in the New Testament that if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, then Christianity is null and void. So I have to look at what the evidence shows me, and the evidence shows, in my opinion, I think the evidence is pretty clear that Jesus rose from the dead. And then if he did that, I have to kind of look at that and take that pretty seriously, because he requires some stuff out of us, if that makes sense. And if he really did rise from the dead, I want to live for him. I want to seek him out. And fortunately, I've been doing that since I was a little kid. And what I've found about witches is that they're already so in tune with the spiritual realm that it doesn't take much for them when Jesus shows up for them. He really shows up, and then they jump head first into a relationship with him and become pretty powerful relationships with him. If you're interested, go watch a couple of the prior witches that were involved with pretty heavy witchcraft on the show. And man, everyone we listened to, they were so in tune with the spiritual world before they found Christ, and then he showed up for them, and then these women, sometimes they'll read your mail. Like God talks to them and tells them stuff about you. Like there's women in this church that God will talk to them. God told me to tell you this. And it's like, sometimes I see them and I get uncomfortable. I'm like, man, what are you going to tell me today, dude? Like, get away from me, lady. I'll tell you a story one time. This lady here that really talks to God. I was in church one day. Pastor Gary was there too, because I remember looking at him. But I had something I struggled with last year. I was struggling with doubt and even almost deconstructed myself. I wouldn't say I almost deconstructed, but I was really starting to doubt my faith. I'll say that. And I really hated the thought of pulling out of Christianity because of everything I've been through. I'd seen a lot. I always say I've seen too much to go back, and it would take a lot for me to deconstruct. There's a lot there for me to deconstruct, a lot. And there's just some stuff that can't be deconstructed. And so that's probably, thank God, why I didn't get pulled out of it. But I was in church one day, and we have this thing in church called altar calls at the end of service. And it's not just for people that need salvation. It's for people that want a miracle. Larry goes down and prays for people. When I feel called, I'll go pray for people as well. Pastor Gary goes down and prays for people. And that's where we go down and we kind of intervene in the spiritual world for each other, where we go down and we pray for each other for cancer to be healed, sickness to be healed. I mean, we've seen Parkinson's healed in this church. We've seen a lady with cancer get healed. We've seen sicknesses healed. We've seen infertility. We've seen women that can't have babies have babies. We've seen so many miracles happen. Now, on the other hand, I don't want to sit here and say that it always works out. I mean, you know of one of us where we traveled and we went and prayed and it didn't work out. And that always stinks. I always hate when that happens, but I don't want to discount the wonderful things that we've seen God do through prayer. And it's awesome. But anyway, during one of these altar calls, I used to go down every time and I wanted to be delivered from something I was dealing with. And I went down every week and God wouldn't deliver me. And one week I was sitting on the pew and I said, I'm not going down there anymore. I'm done. I'm not praying to you anymore. I'm not asking for you to take this away from me. I'm done. I'm leaving. I put my eyes on Pastor Gary because Pastor Gary knows me pretty well. I didn't want him to see my face. I was angry. And I was saying all this in my head. I said, I'm done. And my wife was down there praying for somebody. Larry was down there praying for somebody. I made sure none of my close friends could see me. And I bailed out the back door, headed towards the truck. There's this lady named Pastor Dee here, and she's one of those, ladies I was telling you about that oftentimes.
Holy Spirit.
She's got the clairs.
Yeah. One time that, a lot of times ex-witches remind me of whenever they get to that level. She slammed on her car, and she got out of her car. She came up to me. She goes, Zach, God told me to tell you to not stop praying, not stop going down. And I started tripping out. I'd never had something happen that quick where God answered and that quick. And I started thinking in my head, did I say this out loud? Was I so angry in there that I said it out loud? And then I went to Angela. I was like, did I tell you something in the auditorium? Angela was going, no. I was like, oh my gosh, I did say that in my head. Nobody heard me. And she just literally, Holy Spirit talked to her, told her to slam on the brakes and tell me that. And she just obeyed. I mean, she literally slammed on her brakes. Her tire squealed a little bit. She was getting out of there. Holy Spirit told her to stop. She stopped, got out. So the reason why I tell you that story is because I think there is a community out there for you in the Christian church that I think that would utilize some of your spiritual gifts and how your personality interacts with the spiritual community. And I'm afraid that there's a sect. I always look at the parable of the sower, and I look at the fact that whenever you become a Christian, something is there that tries to pull you up, deroot you, and trick you away from the truth of Christianity. That is a ideal in it. And I know it'd be hard to admit that you've been tricked, and I don't want to say that to you because I don't want to degrade you or disrespect you in any way. That's not my goal. But I think it's something to think about at the very least. But anyway, I love you. Thank you for coming on. Larry, it's yours.
Larry.
Oh boy. Here we go. No. First off, I have no reason to get mad at you. Okay, you have your point of view.
Giving you a hard time.
I know, but you have your point of view, and I can understand that, and I have my point of view. I've caught on to one of the things that you kept talking about, and it was religion this and religion that and religion, and your experience with religion through the church that you were raised in. Well, we can apologize for that. You know,
you don't have to though. I don't mean that in a way, but like this is just I think it would be is a bit of feedback. I think in terms of like communication back and forth between non-believers who have trauma and those that don't. Like, you don't have to apologize for what they do. You're not them. I think that a more powerful thing is when hearing these stories and stuff going forward, to help be the ones that call out and hold them accountable instead of being the ones that they were for me and just would be like, well, you need to give more to God versus holding the abuser adult accountable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Well, I don't, because I wasn't raised that way. The church your fear of God, that's one of the things that, you were talking about, the fear of hell. And that is a true thing, because truthfully, there is only two destinations. And that's one of the things that I grew up with in the Pentecostal church. And there was a healthy fear of that, but I still ran my world, as you know from hearing us earlier. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that at no point did you ever talk about a relationship with God. See, because I went to several churches. When I first came back, I tried to find some that I wanted to go to, and I didn't feel like I do here. And it's not, these people are great, but honestly, it's my relationship. It's where I stepped in.
Sure.
This gave me a starting point, but it's where I've stepped in, and my time with God isn't here at the church all the time. My time with God is each and every day. I wake up in the morning, I get my wife out to work, we pray. I get my wife off to work because she goes before I do. I have to wait for sunrise. And I spend my time in the Bible. I spend my time seeking after God. I spend that quality time with Him before I ever face the world. And because I've sought God, it's not what the church does for me. It's what I do personally. And I've grown through that. And then I have friends that have either went there before me, like Pastor Gary, long before me, or like Zach that came in after. And you talked about praying down there for people. A lot of times when you see me praying for somebody, it's about encouragement.
Yeah.
God has given me the insight to pray for somebody when they need encouragement. And it's that relationship that I have bonded with God. I truthfully believe that we get caught up on man's thought process way more than what we ought to. You talk about there not being deities, or why is God a male and not a female? We call Him Father, but I don't believe that there is a true sex to God. I think He created all of us in His image, meaning that the female and the male, right? He also made us to where we are one, male and female, through marriage, through the union. Why would that not be a reflection of what God is?
That's more of what I believe that and it just to go back, like I did do the whole, like I spent more time out of the church and trying to focus on just me in relationship with God on my own longer than I've been in the practice now. So I did very much do like a away from the church, like, cause like I said, that my experience didn't drive me away from God at the time. I didn't deconstruct until 20 some years like later. I still very much believed in and most aligned with the Christian God or Abrahamic God. But I didn't go to like a church because I didn't trust the people in the church. So I definitely did like try that.
Okay. Hey, Larry.
I forgot what your last thing.
I've actually been in some churches where I stepped out as well.
Larry, finish your thing before we let KB on. I do want to say this before Larry finishes. I want to say that you said that to hold Christians accountable. We do, and you say Larry's kind of gets mad at unbelievers on here and stuff like that. He's way harder on Christians, 100%. way harder on Christians. We do the reason why I'm saying that is we do hold Christians accountable, and we do have expectations of them, of the people that are in our friend group and stuff. We don't allow things to get by. He especially does it with me, and I don't with other people. I mean, that's why we're here.
We
right?
have to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And that's what we
and
were
it wasn't
told to do.
directly at like you guys either.
I know,
I think
yeah.
for listeners too, and just in general, because like we can have the conversations all day and everybody have their beliefs, but if both sides aren't trying to do something to try to tolerate and coexist, you know what I mean? What is the real point of it? Because ultimately at the end of the day, not everyone's going to believe the same thing. I mean, from someone who has gone through the trauma and is on the gone through the healing and is on the other side, I think something in general, just because I hear that from a lot of people in general, apologizing for things that we experience like as kids and stuff from other people. It's like, you don't have to apologize on their behalf. My dad hasn't even apologized, so why would I forgive someone that I don't even know for something that they didn't do, kind of a thing. That I think instead of apologizing, just being taking in the stories and hearing what we're saying, and then looking out for that and making sure that the people are within the church and your fellow brethren are being held accountable, so these things don't continue to happen. I feel like that would just help the converse. It would probably not, people wouldn't be so as defensive, I think, coming in, if that makes sense.
Okay, Larry, finish your final statement.
I share a verse with each episode, and the one that I feel like I'm supposed to share with you is Matthew 6:24. Matthew 6:24. Okay. It says, "No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love another. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon." And I used the King James Version on just the manna part, because I don't like the version of money. I think that means materialistic stuff versus just one aspect of it, personally. But when you go back to Joshua 24:15, it says, pick this day who you're going to serve. See, I can't look at other gods, because I've chosen the one that I'm going to serve. And as you call him, he's the God of Abraham. I appreciate you coming on, and I really do love you, and I feel for you. Because I would like everybody to see things from my eyes, and you want everybody to see things from your eyes, and I can understand that.
But isn't that what it's about, though? Like,
I don't try to...
I mean, I've had a totally different experience that you have during a different time. It's going to be different. Like, I don't know. I think it's, I don't know how to say it. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but.
Okay, go ahead and say your final say in there, KB. We got you live and mic'd up. We got you.
I appreciate you guys having me. And I have, if you'll allow, consent, I have 4, what we call shadow work questions. Really, they're just things to have you kind of look inward and things like that. And I think that for just everyone listening, regardless of what their belief is, as humans on this flying, burning rock in space, we're here, and we're here together for however long, no matter what we believe. And until either whatever happens, whether we get hit by an asteroid, we blow each other up, or Jesus comes back, we got to be here together. So I feel like looking inward and anything that we can all do to work on some of that shadow that maybe causes us to be judgmental or have kinds of ways, would you be open to me asking? You don't have to answer them, but just say them out loud so that you have them to think about later.
As long as they're not like prayers or chakras.
No,
or
they're literally
like
questions.
Okay, because we
questions.
don't pray on here either. It's just kind of like a rule of something like that. If they're just questions, yeah, go ahead.
They're just questions. And saying the word, that's the thing, was like the shadow work thing. It's been given such a negative rap that it's like it's really healthy and a good thing to do. It's the things that we often suppress and don't deal with that end up festering and showing up and manifesting in toxic or negative either self-sabotaging behaviors or where we're doing negative things to others, that kind of thing, where we really need to like stop running from it and sit down and kind of address it. But I just have 4 quick questions. Okay. When you hear beliefs that differ from your own, what emotions arise within you, and why do you think that is? Number 2, in what ways have you been challenged or uncomfortable in this discussion? What might that discomfort reveal about areas in your own belief system that need further exploration? Number 3, have you ever explored why it may feel uncomfortable to be open to differing beliefs? What does that resistance tell you about your own growth areas? And number 4, are you willing to reflect on how judgment or dismissiveness may be a projection of unresolved aspects of your own shadow? What might you need to acknowledge within yourself? And that's all.
Okay. So are you done with your final statement? Was that kind of what you were wanting to close with?
I mean, yeah, I guess. I've enjoyed being on here. I don't really know what I should.
Okay. Well, the reason why I asked that, because I just want to say that like, well, I want to answer those questions because I have a lot of experience with those questions. If you go back and watch the episode, you can see that hell was a big problem for me for a little bit because whenever I say I love you guys, like I have people I've talked to for a couple years from this show that I still stay in contact with and stuff like that. So I would say I used to feel uncomfortable whenever somebody would challenge my beliefs and stuff like that. But I think it was because I wasn't diving in as much as I should have been. I wasn't solid. I wasn't looking at, you could have challenged my beliefs because I didn't have any foundation.
That's good.
That makes sense.
Good deal. And I like that first part that you said.
Yeah, I didn't have a foundation to sit on. I mean, you could blow my house over real easy because I really wasn't. And maybe one could say that I really wasn't ready for this show whenever we first started. And sometimes I still feel like I don't. Thank God Pastor Gary's here sometimes and stuff like that because this is hard for us to do because most Christians, like, I have responses I could say to everything. I have responses and answers, and I could debate you all day long, but it makes me sick to my stomach, and I don't feel like it gets us anywhere. Does that make sense?
That got old to me. Yeah, there was definitely a period after I deconstructed where I had so much rage in me that was coming up, and like I didn't seek it out. But for the Christians that would come into like the deconstruction lives and just start slinging, you know what, in the comments, I would just sling it right back. It was therapeutic. It served its purpose. But then after a while, I mean, if that's where you want to stay, like have fun with that. But that's not what I'm about. I'm trying to like heal me, become a better version of me so that I can be here to serve my purpose. And, and after a while, that just got old. It ends up being just two opposite sides of the same coin. It's not getting anywhere.
Okay.
Well,
in closing,
I can kind of agree with that, but I want to go back to something that you said on your fourth question. But you keep mentioning shadow. Mm-hmm. And I'm a child of the light, so I don't have shadows.
I think we all have light and dark. That's the thing is too, like, I believe in duality, and I think that everything is neutral. It's polarity. It's us that is chooses to either use our energy and our consciousness to do good or do evil with it.
I agree. I can agree with that.
Okay.
We all have a choice.
In closing, KB, we made you a deal that we would call Christians out. I want to ask something of you in closing as well, if I could.
That's fair.
Okay. Lately, I've been seeing it. It's been really upsetting me. It really upsets me just because, like, for example, I've seen some people in the deconstruction community. This hasn't been you or anything else. And I'm not going to say who it's been, but, for example, posting stitches or duets or videos of someone just simply worshiping God, or maybe someone that's simply just singing a song for the Lord, and it may not be the same style that you like, maybe something like that, and it's just laughing and making fun of them. And then maybe even someone that may be trying to eliminate some sort of sin and they don't think it's serious, and so they make fun of them. I also don't think that's appropriate of that deacon, and I don't think that shines a good light on your community too.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right.
I will make you a deal to call out Christians if you'll call that out.
Deal. I'll even pound it.
Pound it?
Deal.
All right. I got you a pound right here. Boom. All right. Thanks for coming on, KB. I appreciate it. Thank you. It was an awesome conversation.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, keep in contact with you. And honestly, I really do want you to come to church someday. You wouldn't be the first witch that came in here. So
I never did get the answer. What state are you from?
Oh, North Carolina. You couldn't tell by my twang?
Yeah. Well,
she's somewhere down there.
You said deep,
down here in the South.
You said deep South, so I was assuming Mississippi.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Take care, KB.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Y'all might have to get me out of here, though. Cause
I don't think we know how to get you out of here either. That's the problem. Coco,
she's gone.
Okay. All right. Well, we have we're at 1:44. We could end it now, but I have just something that I would like to say that I personally don't believe that she's gotten to experience the same thing in church that we have from that conversation. And that's why I want to stress so much to go to church. I was like, I want you to feel what I feel here, because it's possible that you haven't felt the same, that you know what, obviously she had it wrong when she was younger, obviously, you know, and that sucks, man, because I never even got to experience that. I mean, I never had to experience that.
We deal with church hurt in so many different forms from this side of this podcast.
Yeah.
And it is simply amazing to me how that goes on. You know?
You know, a Satanist came into church. I won't say who or what. I'm not going to but an atheistic Satanist came into church this Sunday in here, you know, and he came in, and I know him. And I went up to him. He's a young kid. He's 17. And I went up to him, and I rubbed his neck, and I said hi, and told him, I said, hey, man, love you. Just good to see you. Glad you're here, stuff like that. And I was like, did you hear, or your mom make you come? Or, you know, just jabbing with him a little bit. And he said, no, I came on my own free will. And I was, okay. All right, good deal. And he just kind of looked upset to be there or whatever. And then on the way out, I was like, hey, man, you didn't catch fire. Good deal, dude. Good to see you. But, you know, I'm glad you came. I said, I love you. And he said, I love you too, Zach. And he said, I'm really glad I came.
Wow.
I said, I'm really glad you came too, buddy.
Very good.
You know, and it's one thing that, like, our pastors being authentic on stage. We've got authentic people in the stands. I'm telling them I love them, and I know when people can tell when you mean it, or you're just saying it because you think that you need to. People can tell. Like, we just have a whole bunch of authenticity. That's all I know to do, is just be real on here, display that emotion the best that I can, do it in real life. But I know when you get here, it's different. Like, I can only display emotion so much through these stupid cameras, and I hope we can reach you, but this isn't good enough, man. If you're listening to this and you're on the brink, you need to get into a spirit-filled church to be able to experience what we're talking about. You cannot do it through these mics. You cannot do it through these cameras. You can't do it. I wish we could. I'd give it to you every single day. I would never turn these cameras off, you know, but you can't. You got to get around it. You got to get around other spirit-filled believers that are practicing, that are experienced, or you just aren't going to get to experience. And if you ever need help trying to find that, I promise I'll help you vet them. And I promise I'll do all the calling I can. We've got pastors here that really network as much as they can. I've asked Pastor Joseph before for proper churches, and I bet we could figure it out. I don't care where you're at in the world. I bet we could figure it out. But you got to get in church. We are not your pastors. I can't give you that experience that I feel that we talk about on this podcast. I just can't. So
very good.
Anything else?
I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a whole really different thing, being able to see the guest and
it's fun though, huh?
I like it.
Well, I found it a lot less. I don't like it when I'm on the screen. It was a whole lot easier to ignore the cameras when it wasn't right in front of you.
Did anybody else, did it bother when Mark was army crawling in here?
I tried not to look.
Oh, man. I felt like I kept having the urge to, like, come and pull his hat off or something just to mess with him. But, yeah, for those of you who didn't know, Mark has been army crawling around this sucker this whole time, messing with the cameras. So I love it. This is fun. Thank you, God, for this. Yeah. Thank you, God, for this. This is cool.
I really want to say thank you to the people that donated the items that we needed.
Yep.
You know, we certainly appreciate that very much.
Coco donated some. Mark donated. I mean, we've all been up here working. Everybody in here. I'm so grateful that this is so fun, and I know that God has his hand in this just from how the cameras unfolded. We've named the cameras after angels, but things have unfolded for us to acquire these, and God has just really had his hand in the acquisition of all this stuff. And I'm really excited what God's going to do with these live shows and what he's going to do with the podcast. And I'm just excited. And I'm a different guy now too, so I'm excited to see what that's going to be like, how I'm going to interact with the people and stuff like that, and what God's going to do through me, you know. So
at some point, it's going to be, to me, it's going to become like, you know, when I witness to people at the gas pump or, you know, waitresses at the restaurant and stuff like that. And it'll get past all the nervousness.
Yeah.
But I think God is doing something through this that we didn't foresee.
Yeah, I don't think we still see what's going to happen.
And I thought, you know, to me, this is validation that we're doing the right thing for God. And that we are bringing glory to his name. Mm-hmm. Is because, I mean, all of this stuff was provided in a manner that kind of blew my mind. I mean, personally, when you came up with the idea to start looking more professional, it was a little scary to me.
Yeah.
But when, you know, God stepped in and utilized his resources through people, it's just amazing when you see that validation from God.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I feel.
No, and before I even came up with the idea to make this more professional, God showed me through whenever I was being disobedient to him about where my focus drifted away from and where it went to. There's 3 things that really God had me focused on. And it was just that's evidence to me. It's very clear that when I started being disobedient to God, there's these 3 things: my business. One thing I'm not going to say right now, just for reasons. I can tell you when it shuts off. I can't tell you right now.
No, I
you probably know what I'm talking about.
I do.
So the thing I can't talk about, and then this ministry. Whenever I was being disobedient to God, it shifted off that. And then whenever I started being obedient to God, my focus shifted back on it again. And I realized that it's the same concept behind what happened when we went and prayed for that girl and I didn't get what I wanted and I tanked on that. It's the same concept. I had a vision and a plan for this show and it didn't go the way that I thought it was, but it was always going the way that God wanted it to go. And I got upset and mad and tiffy and I backed off because it just wasn't going my way. But it never has. It's always gone God's way.
I honestly can't remember the pastor who spoke this. I don't remember if it was at Revival Night or whether it was, because I hear so many pastors there lately. But, you know, it's either Kevin, Ben, Gary, or I think it was Jamie, right, on Sunday night?
Jamie Austin.
You can't walk in obedience and disobedience and anointing at the same time. And when you were in disobedience, God pulled the anointing off of this.
Yeah, it was muddy. It was muddy, man. I remember it being muddy. I can't say that God removed his hand completely in that.
No, he didn't.
But it was almost virtually impossible for me to that's what the most uncomfortable part, because I'd always knew when God talked, I could go in with 100% confidence and obey what he said and knew I was protected.
Yeah, but there was...
And I just couldn't in that time. It was so uncomfortable.
Other parts of this ministry were still walking in obedience. If we had all been walking in disobedience, it would have been shut down completely.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to also think that too.
Yeah.
The prayers and support that Pastor Gary gives, the prayers and support that Discovery
Yep.
gives.
Or my
and,
wife praying for me
and
when she knew.
definitely,
Yeah.
Definitely.
all the anointing prayer rags that she stuffed in your pillow. You
Yeah.
don't have any foam anymore. They're all anointing prayer pillow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's cool that it's just cool that like at least I know now like what the warnings of God look like. I know what those look like, and you better believe if I get one of those, I'm packing up and
Very
I'm
good.
running the other way, dude, because I never want to go through something like that again.
Well, good.
That's the
Catch it
truth.
before it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'll know what it looks like and I'll be scared to death.
Yeah.
I won't be like, hey, man, God, you're trying to give Larry a warning here, buddy.
Yeah.
That's still the funniest thing. I look back at that and I'm like, you arrogant idiot, dude. Why on God's earth would you do that? But it's all right.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because it saves me.
Oh, God, you'll say it anyway. You'll find a way to sneak it in there. Get out of here.
No, but I mean, when you sit on this side and God puts a muzzle on you because he has to teach you. It was something that I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you because you wouldn't have listened anyway. You thought I was pretty much a know-it-all or tried to be a know-it-all, and I don't know any of this. So
I've learned through this time that me and you, the reason why you get frustrated with me because we're a lot alike. Like I remind you of yourself when you were younger, huh?
A lot.
Yeah.
But through the ability to reach out through the men's classes and stuff like that, and having those times with guys, and hearing their point of view, and God being able to give me an opportunity to encourage those, I go home charged. I don't know how does a pastor go home charged after a good altar call, or does he go home exhausted after preaching the message?
Me personally, it's exhausted because I put everything I've got in it.
Yeah, I noticed like after that pride that I could, when you did the pride lesson, I felt like you were the most tired on
Exhausted,
that one.
yeah.
Yeah, I could tell you were tired.
And like Sunday morning, and a lot of it honestly is spiritual warfare.
Yeah,
Because like you're talking, spiritual warfare fatigues you very time. And we get physically fatigued from spiritual battles, and that's everyday life. And the more the spiritual battle, the more fatigue you have. But yeah, for me personally, I'm zapped. Yeah.
I'll share you some. Last time and this time, I actually felt more charged when I left than whenever I came here. Like the last episode we recorded, I had a spiritual battle all day where I was just very tense and like very on edge. And it happened again today, and I left last time more energized, and I feel like more energized this time as well. I feel like I got a douse of the Holy Spirit, like he visited me and had something to say. And I'm sure I'll recognize what it was when I listen to it.
That's so good. It is good. Good to have an encounter with God.
Yeah, that's why I felt like the Holy Spirit was here today. He showed up. That's all we can ask. And that's what I really feel a passion and a calling towards. I don't think I'm meant to be a pastor or anything like that, but I really feel led to help people get back into appropriate churches. I want to be a part of the great revival that's coming.
And honestly, you and Larry can say things that a pastor can't. And if I said it, it would be totally different in being received than you two saying it.
Yeah.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
I think God put together the team he wanted here. Because I do a lot of sitting and listening when you need me, I'm here. But really, they want to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it, man. And I think everybody has a reason to be here. And I'm having a lot of fun. I look at this totally different now. It's totally fun.
And I pray that when they leave and when it's over, is the one thing that they keep, and which I think we're all on the same page, is that those three guys love me. They really do. Like KB, man, she's a sweetheart. Just, as a
very much
daddy of girls. And of course, yours is not that old yet. Mine are. But I look at her like, wow, what a sweetheart. What a sweet little girl.
She's right in between my oldest and my second oldest.
Yeah.
And so our heart is a heart of love, and we want to love them with the love of Jesus Christ.
It just stinks because I know that she would have had a different experience if she was with me. I knew if I could have been her dad, I know. That's why I said I wish I could just take all the girls. Boys I got a boy too, and he's a little bit harder. I'm kind of like, hey man, what are you doing? Like he's kind of a little harder to raise, you know. But girls, if I could just take every girl, I know I could take care of you, and I know that you'd be okay. I know that I would do a good job, and you wouldn't have to worry about. I mean, I'm not saying that you wouldn't ever get hurt. I mean, I can't protect you from the world forever, but I know that you would know that you'd have someone that had your back, and that I cared about your future, and that, you know, that I was going to support you all the way, that you don't have to worry. You know what you're going to get every day. My dad's boring. He goes to bed at 8:30 or 9. He doesn't ever drink. He doesn't ever smoke. They know what they're going to get every single night out of me. They know they can. It's an old police habit, but when they come into my room and wake me up, I throw a pillow at them. That's kind of weird, but I do it. That's the most dangerous thing I do.
But he hadn't got there yet, Gary.
What's that?
He hadn't got to the dating stage.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Keegan dates. She's a freshman. Yeah, she dates.
No. That's not. I'm talking about when they get in that 19, 20 in college.
Yeah.
When every one of those little brats, you just want to punch right in the mouth.
Well, I mean, this last one, it's just that I reckon I've learned on this last one, and I don't care if we go a little overtime, but we're almost at 2. Yeah, it's fine. We'll cut it off here in a second. But this last one, I realized that she was kind of vying for his attention, and she was trying to do things to get his attention. And I felt like I should have said something, been like, "Hey, sweetheart, you shouldn't ever have to push for somebody's attention like that."
You're the prize.
Yeah,
he's not.
Would you ever have to push this much for your dad's attention? Because if not, like, you need to be looking like I'm putting down my phone, listen to you. Like, the fact that you're doing this, like, I mean, you're a worship leader at church now. You got a beautiful voice. You get all A's and B's. You're the catch here, sister. You shouldn't be after chasing after anybody. And I thought I didn't say that. And then when it all kind of fell apart, I said, I think I owned up to it. I said, I think I made a mistake. I saw you vying us for his attention. I should have said something. I'm sorry. Like, I think you went a little bit longer. Because she trusts me. If I told her, I don't think she'd break up with him right away, but she takes her dad's advice for what it's worth. And it's even funny now, she's got a little Holy Spirit in her now too. Whenever I was applying for that sheriff's office, she kind of did the same thing to me. She goes, whenever you said you applied for that sheriff's office, I knew that's not what God had for you. And I just didn't know if I could say something. I said, please say something. Every time, like, we need to have a team. We're a team here.
And discernment comes in all levels.
But yeah, she said that. She said, I just didn't know what to say. I knew that wasn't what God had for you. I was like, next time, say it. Spray it, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, your dad's not perfect.
Sweet.
So, okay, we're at 2 hours. I mean, that's it. Larry, take us out, buddy.
Jesus loves you, and so do I.
Thank you for watching and listening. We are out.
Thanks for listening to the Help My Unbelief podcast. Tune in every week for new episodes.